Caring Review, print speaking to the blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QandReview. That is @CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QandReview.com. That is INFORMATION@CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the news section. Disastrous start today. Lorraine Kelly had a disastrous start to her morning before hosting her ITV daytime show. Any of us who have had an early start for work know the struggle of making sure you wake up on time and don't sleep through an alarm. But the Glasgow-born Telly Post had the opposite issue yesterday morning as she accidentally woke up 2 hours early. The 64-year-old mistakenly read her clock as 5 a.m, the time she usually gets up to get ready for her stint on Lorraine. By the time she had already had a shower, Lorraine realised it was actually 3 a.m. Sharing a rather frustrated-looking selfie, she told her Instagram followers, "When you wake up and have a shower and a cuppa, but it's 3 a.m. instead of 5 a.m, read the clock wrong." That article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the news section. Care home resident Margaret celebrates 100th birthday. A care home resident in Bearsden had a special guest attend her 100th birthday party, the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care in Scotland. Neil Gray visited Millmore Care Home, Antonine House, to learn more about the care and services provided and to discuss key sector issues. During his visit, Mr Gray attended the 100th birthday party of Margaret McNay and presented her with a card from the King and the Queen's consort. He also congratulated resident Myra Davison, who is 84, for achieving an NVQ qualification in Italian after completing a 12-week course with Social Enterprise, Lingo Flamingo. Mr Gray toured the home with senior Millmore staff and discussed concerns faced by the care sector, including recruitment, funding and changes to building guidance for mental health homes, nurse pay uplift and the National Care Service. He said, "It was a pleasure to meet the residents to find out more about their plans for growth, as well as hearing about their workforce planning and service delivery. I appreciated having an open discussion with the Millmore team on some of the challenges facing the sector and how improvements could be made, including through the development of the National Care Service." Mary Preston, Chief Operating Officer for Millmore Group, said, "We were thrilled to have the opportunity to showcase the fantastic facilities we have at Antonine House, as well as to introduce Mr Gray to Millmore and our commitment to excellence. We had a productive and enjoyable day and would like to thank Mr Gray for taking the time to come and learn more about our care home services across Scotland. The Millmore team and residents at Antonine House were particularly pleased that he was able to join us for Margaret's 100th birthday party, making it an extra special for everyone in attendance." And the article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, in the news section. Gallery closes after man falls from balcony. Report by Ben Waddle and Rebecca Newlands. A police probe is underway after a man fell from a balcony inside a Glasgow art gallery. Emergency services were called to the Gallery of Modern Art, GOMA, in the city's Royal Exchange Square at 12:30 p.m. yesterday, Wednesday, after being alerted to the incident. The Scottish Ambulance Service sent an ambulance, a paramedic response unit and a trauma team to the scene. Meanwhile, police also raced to the area. Now, officers have said a man had fallen from height inside the art gallery. The force has also revealed that an investigation into the incident is still underway and cops are on the scene. In images captured by the Glasgow Times, police motors and paramedic crews were pictured outside the venue. Following the tragic incident, the GOME revealed it had closed for the day due to it. Announcing the closure on social media, the venue said, "The Gallery of Modern Art has closed early today after a member of the public fell from a balcony. Emergency services are in attendance. The building will reopen as normal tomorrow, September the 12th at 10 a.m. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, "Emergency services are in attendance at Royal Exchange Square after reports a man had fallen from height inside an art gallery. Police were notified at 12:30 p.m. on September 11th. Inquiries are ongoing. Officers remain at the scene." Meanwhile, a spokesperson for the Scottish Ambulance Service said, "We received a call at 12:23 p.m. to attend an incident on Royal Exchange Square, Glasgow. We dispatched one ambulance, one paramedic response unit and one trauma team to the scene." And that report was written by Ben Moddle and Rebecca Newlands. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the news section. Home gig for Franz Ferdinand. A Glasgow band have announced a homecoming Barrowland Ballroom show and a new album next year. Franz Ferdinand will perform at the iconic East End venue on March the 7th to round off a new UK tour. The tour will come after their latest album, The Human Fear, which will be released on January the 10th. The Barrowland Ballroom has a special meaning to the band, as the music video for the album's lead single Audacious was filmed there. Tickets go on sale from 10 a.m. on September the 20th, and that article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the opinion section. Letters to the editor. Cruel policy will cause major harm. Now that Keir Starmer has carried out his tough decision to make sure elderly, vulnerable pensioners, the majority of whom have worked and paid taxes and national insurance to this country for over 45 years or more, lose their precious winter fuel allowance, perhaps we should give him a moniker as we did with Thatcher the Milk Snatcher. How about Carmer the Pension Hammer? Because, have no doubts, this cruel policy will cause harm this winter. P. McDermott, Glasgow. I am disgusted by the government's decision to cut the winter fuel payment. It's clear Sir Keir Starmer has no care whatsoever for the UK's pensioners. I doubt if any of his elderly relatives will have to choose between heating and eating this winter. We should never have trusted the Labour Party when it came to voting at the general election. No doubt the next budget will also hammer pensioners in the wallet too. Mary Riley, Easterhouse. I really do fear what this Labour government will decide to cut next. All the MPs keep doing is blaming the Tories for the mess that we are in. Well, now it is Starmer's chance to change things, but instead he has decided to ignore any taxes on the rich and target the country's elderly. James Campbell, Shawlands. Do any of these MPs have a conscience? Do they not have elderly parents who will suffer due to this cost-cutting decision? What a dreadful and cruel move by the Labour Party. Name and address supplied. And those were letters to the editor. And today, Thursday the 12th of September, Glasgow Times. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the news section. Man said he was a fictional character amid violence. This article is an exclusive by Ava White. A man smashed a front door with a crowbar before stating that he was a character from Game of Thrones. Gary McGee, 51, of Yoker, was sentenced at Glasgow Sheriff Court recently after pleading guilty to 2 charges of acting in a threatening or abusive manner. The court heard that Neil Campbell had been in his home at Knightswood at around 1:45 a.m. on March 14, 2022, when he was woken by the sound of thudding coming from the front door. Mr. Campbell made his way to the top of the stairs in view of the front door, where he saw a shadow, McGee, and an item being used to strike the door. He shouted for the person to F***K off, and they were away from the door. But there were more thuds, and a round glass window on the door was smashed. Mr. Campbell then saw McGee with a crowbar in his hand. He shouted for his partner to phone the police, and McGee said, "There are 500 of us. I'm Ragnar." Mr. Campbell went to the front door and grabbed the end of the crowbar in an attempt to get it from McGee. McGee, still with the crowbar in his possession, then took a paint scraper and threw it through the smashed window at Mr. Campbell. He then made his way to another property on the street. Another man, John King, was at home at the property with his partner when he saw someone walk past outside. The pair then heard banging at the window on the front door. Mr. King went to the door where he saw the shadow of someone, McGee, standing at the door with a crowbar. He began to shout and scream, and McGee walked away. Police attended and saw damage to the glass window at Mr. King's property, which had been shattered but not smashed. Officers tried to trace McGee but were unsuccessful. After reviewing CCTV and carrying out further inquiries, a photo board was shown to Mr. Campbell, who identified McGee. Cops then traced McGee, and he was later cautioned and charged, to which he made no reply. McGee's lawyer told the court that his client's behaviour had been bizarre. The defence solicitor said, "Mr. McGee at the outset wanted to resolve this matter. He has expressed regret and remorse over what happened in the early hours of that morning. He is a man who doesn't want to be apart with a large dose of methadone for the rest of his life. Leading up to this, he weaned himself off of harder illicit drugs and took cheap Valium in its place. He had very little sleep and was completely disorientated and behaved in the manner libelled. Apparently, Ragnar is some sort of character from Game of Thrones or Marvel Comics. Bizarre behaviour, extremely bizarre and very frightening for the witnesses. He has not offended since the date of this offence. There is nothing else outstanding." Sheriff Bernard Ablett placed McGee in a community payback order with social work supervision for 1 year and a conduct requirement to attend any addiction services and mental health or physical health services as directed by his supervising officer. McGee was also tagged for 4 months, keeping him indoors between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. And that report was an exclusive by Ava White. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the news section. Man shortlisted for Video Game Award. A Clydebank man has been shortlisted for a National Video Games Award. Will Hamilton, 41, from Dalmuir, is in the running for the Best Student Game category at the TIGA UK Games Education Awards. His game, V-Art, was a project for his dissertation at the University of the West of Scotland, UWS. Will recently graduated with first class honours in BSc Computer Games Development. The game acts as an accessible art gallery, taking players inside virtual reality, VR, recreations of famous paintings such as the Edvard Munch's The Scream. The University of West of Scotland alumnus designed the game to be accessible to all, considering how it controls, the potential for motion sickness, and adding audio descriptions and multi-language support. To play VR for free, go to www.twistedrabbit.itch.io/vart, that is, all the W's, twistedrabbit.itch.io/VART. He said, "Accessibility is really important to me. I grew up with undiagnosed ADHD and have loved ones and friends who live with disabilities. If you want to see art, you have to be able to travel to where it is, and even then, you might not get to see it for long. I wanted to create a VR experience that anyone could use to enjoy real-world art. The twist is that in VR sends them inside the picture and allows them to explore a 3D recreation of a 2D art. I'm absolutely delighted to be nominated for a TIGA award. I honestly didn't think the game had a chance of making the shortlist, and I was quite taken aback to find out that it had." Gavin Baxter, senior lecturer in computer games development, said, "Will has produced something of an exceptional standard, and I think, it's fair to say, of commercial quality." And the article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the news section, "Son stole mother's bank card to pay drug debts." This article is an exclusive by Ava White. A man who stole his mother's bank card and withdrew a 3-figure sum told cops he did it because he owed money for drugs. Liam Cochrane, 31, appeared from custody at Glasgow Sheriff Court after pleading guilty to 2 charges. These included stealing a bank card and using it to withdraw money, and sending messages that were grossly offensive to another man. The court heard that Cochrane and his mother were in her home in Kelvindale on August the 5th when a minor verbal argument broke out between the pair. Cochrane then took his mother's handbag and left the property. Around 15 minutes later, Cochrane's mother got a notification on her phone from her bank stating that £100 had been withdrawn from her account. Soon after this, Cochrane went back to the home, where he returned the handbag but not the bank card. Cochrane's mother contacted police. Officers attended and asked Cochrane to return the bank card. He briefly protested his innocence. Cops searched Cochrane and found £7. The bank card was then located underneath a sofa. Cochrane stated, "I'm sorry, I owed money for drugs." He was arrested and taken to Clydebank Police Station, where he was cautioned and charged and made no reply. In an earlier incident on July the 8th, Cochrane contacted a man, the father of Cochrane's ex-partner's children, on Facebook Messenger. Cochrane asked, "Is your address still near?" To which the man replied, "Why do you want to know?" He then stated, "For a visit." Cochrane made allegations against the man that he was indecently assaulting children. He then stated, "I'm past giving a F***K, so if I do get the jail, I actually don't give a F***K. Won't be laughing soon. I have watched your kids walk into her house lots of times. You think I'm joking? I know what house it is. Just watch what happens." Cochrane then said he would put the man in a box before sending a further message which read, "I want to go back to jail so I have nothing to lose." The man later contacted police. Officers went to Cochrane's address and informed him he was being arrested in relation to the incident. He was cautioned and charged, to which he made no reply. Cochrane's lawyer told the court his client's life had disintegrated over the last 2 years. The defence solicitor said he was employed as a head chef in Ashton Lane. Since August 2022, his life disintegrated. It's quite sad he had no real involvement with the system and has now become quite regular. Sheriff Mary Shields released Cochrane on bail to attend a family funeral and deferred sentencing to October for him to be of good behaviour. And the article was an exclusive written by Ava White. From the Glasgow Times, Thursday the 12th of September, from the news section, "Woman rushed to hospital after motorcycle crash." Report by Ben Waddle. A woman has been rushed to hospital after an emergency incident in Glasgow. Police say they were called to a crash involving a car and a motorcycle in Shettleston Road in the East End on Tuesday. The force was alerted to the incident at around 8:40 p.m. Emergency crews then rushed to the scene. After that, the driver of the bike, a 36-year-old woman, was taken to hospital for treatment. An investigation into the smash is underway. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, around 8:40 p.m. on Tuesday, September the 10th, 2024, we were called to a report of a crash involving a car and a motorcycle in the Shettleston Road area of Glasgow. Emergency services attended and the driver of the motorcycle, a 36-year-old woman, was taken to hospital for treatment. Inquiries are ongoing to establish the full circumstances of the incident. And the article was written by Ben Waddle. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section, ballet dancers shows raised £10,000 for Guide Dogs charity. Report written by Sandhya Suresh. Recent ballet shows at the Airdrie Town Hall have raised more than £10,000 for charity. The guide dogs received a cheque for £11,244.46 after the performances. The two shows featured Royal Ballet principal dancer Rhys Clark returning to his hometown of Airdrie for special performances on the stage, where he first performed at the age of 4. The money was raised through ticket sales and collections. North Lanarkshire Provost Kenneth Duthie presented the cheque to representatives of the charity. He said, "It's heartwarming to see so many people come together to support a cause that makes a real difference in people's lives. Rhys Clark's return to his hometown was an outstanding success, and I hope that this donation to guide dogs will help ensure that more individuals can enjoy the freedom and confidence that a guide dog provides." Before the shows, Rhys visited Airdrie Academy to talk about his career and give pupils a ballet lesson. The events were staged in collaboration with North Lanarkshire Council and Airdrie-based food company Albert Bartlett, who have a long-standing relationship with the Clark family. Sandy Johnson, community fundraising manager at Guide Dogs, said, "We are extremely grateful to be the charity beneficiary of Rhys Clark's homecoming performances at the Airdrie Town Hall at the end of August. Guide Dogs relies almost entirely on donations from the public to provide our life-changing services, supporting adults, children and young people with sight loss. Demand for our services has never been higher, so we would like to say a huge thank you to Rhys, his Royal Ballet colleagues and the North Lanarkshire Council, who have given Guide Dogs this incredible opportunity to be part of such a special event." And that article was written by Sandhya Suresh. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section, biker crashed while 3 times over limit. Report by Tristan Stewart Robertson. A man who crashed his motorbike and broke his collarbone has been banned from the roads for a year. Ryan Murphy previously admitted to driving at more than 3 times the legal drink limit with 71 milligrams of alcohol and 100 millilitres of breath. The limit is 22 milligrams, and the 23-year-old was also driving an unlicensed motorbike and without a proper licence himself or insurance. Dumbarton Sheriff Court heard on September the 10th that police were travelling on Canningsburn Road at around 6:40 p.m. on August the 15th, 2023. They approached the junction with Pendicle Road in Westerton and there was a crash red SkyTeam dirt bike. Members of the public and police went to assist and called an ambulance. A roadside breath test was carried out on Murphy, which he failed. Defence solicitor Eugene Boyle said his client of Moss Heights Avenue, Cardonald, had been taken to hospital and kept in for 5 weeks with a broken collarbone and a leg injury. Since then, there had been a change in attitude. There were 2 separate community payback orders, CPO, imposed with social work supervision that were still underway. He is also under a curfew until January. Sheriff Lorna Anderson said, "I can see you're making efforts to make improvements." She disqualified him from driving for 12 months. His licence was endorsed, and he was ordered to do 60 hours of unpaid work in the community. And that report was written by Tristan Stewart Robertson and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section, cops find booze, drugs and weapons in vehicle. Report by Kirsty Feerick. A Glasgow driver allegedly failed a drugs test as police discovered booze, drugs and weapons in the car. Detectives stopped the vehicle in the early hours of yesterday morning on London Road after becoming suspicious. 2 persons were within the vehicle and the driver deemed unfit to drive after failing the roadside drugs wipe, according to police. Multiple items were seized, including 17 bottles of Buckfast, 13 bottles of vodka and 5 bottles of Mad Dog 2020. Police also found drugs including herbal cannabis, cannabis edibles and cocaine. A knife and a hammer were also recovered. Both people in the car were charged in connection with the discovery and the report will be submitted to the Procurator Fiscal. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said officers had reason to stop a vehicle at 12:10am on Friday, September the 13th on London Road, Glasgow. 2 persons were within the vehicle, with the driver deemed unfit to drive, failing the roadside drug swipe. Multiple items were seized from the vehicle, such as herbal cannabis, cannabis edibles, cocaine and a large quantity of alcohol. A knife and a hammer were also recovered. Both parties were charged with the respective offences. Report will be submitted to the Procurator Fiscal. And the article was written by Kirsty Feerick. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section. Farage to campaign in Scotland. Nigel Farage has said he will be campaigning in Scotland ahead of the 2026 Holyrood election. The Reform UK leader's comments came as a recent poll put the party on 9% in the constituency vote in less than 2 years' time, just 2 percentage points behind the Scottish Conservatives. On the regional list vote, the Survation survey for pro-union campaign group Scotland and Union suggested Reform could win 8%, with the Tories sitting on 11%. Farage said, "I can assure you, Scotland will be seeing me. Of that there is no question at all. I think that really, from very little acorns, we've made a very good start. I will be in Scotland next year, thinking about planning a year ahead from the Scottish elections." Farage also suggested no one knows what the Scottish Conservatives are, what they stand for. In the wake of the Survation poll, Scottish Tory leadership candidate Murdo Fraser said it must act as a wake-up call to the party. With no infrastructure or elected representatives in Scotland, Reform is at our heels, he said. We can't carry on as we are. We need real change, and that is what I will deliver. Reform UK won 7% of the vote in Scotland in July's general election. Scottish Conservative Chairman Craig Hoy said, "If Nigel Farage pays the slightest attention to Scottish politics, he would know that the Scottish Conservatives have been the only major party standing up for the tens of thousands of skilled oil and gas workers who have been shamefully abandoned by Labour, the SNP, Greens and Liberal Democrats. We warned in the run-up to the general election that a vote for Reform would only help the SNP, and that's what happened, with the Nationalists scraping through the middle in 2 seats, which otherwise would almost certainly have been won by the Scottish Conservatives." And the article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section. Glasgow bagpiper gets ready for most unusual gig yet. Report by Anne Fotheringham. It is probably his most unusual gig yet, but piper Harry Gorski-Brown is used to pushing the envelope when it comes to music and performance. The 27-year-old, who lives in Denniston in Glasgow's East End, will be wandering among the ornate and precious artefacts of the Borough collection for a very different kind of concert with Scottish ensemble. The free event, Echoes of the Borough, is part of the city's Sonica Festival, which runs from September 19th to 29th at a range of venues, from the IMAX big screen to the Govanhill Baths. Viola player Jane Atkins will lead the ensemble in a programme of classical and modern music, from Ravel to Nina Simone, inspired by the Pop Park Museum's environment and exhibits. The audience promenades along with the musicians, giving people the chance to see the artefacts and building in a whole new light. "I'm pretty chuffed about it," says Harry, who started playing the pipes in primary school. "Since the Borough reopened, everyone raves about it. I'm looking forward to seeing it properly, with Scottish ensemble playing their tunes in and around the hall. The building is gorgeous." Music has been a part of Harry's life since his early childhood. He grew up in Stirling, learned Gaelic at school and used to sing in a Gaelic choir, taking part in the provincial and national mods. After learning fiddle and whistle, he started chanting in primary and then studied violin performance in Glasgow at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, during which he gravitated towards experimental composition. Harry still plays the fiddle for Shetland saxophonist Norman Wilmore, and he often includes elements of electroacoustic and traditional music in his work. For the Burrell event, he will be playing music from his album Dirt Drone Maker After Dreamboats, which blends voice, pipes, fiddle, organ, bouzouki, and electronics. Harry is also teaming up with French electronica artist Annabelle Play for a second Sonica event. The duo will perform the UK premiere of Elephant You Shake Your Sheep, which is designed to push the bagpipes' familiar sounds to new limits. Sonica is produced by Glasgow-based Cryptic, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. The 8th edition of its biennial festival for curious minds and adventurous spirits will welcome and showcase acts from Egypt, Myanmar, Ukraine, Australia and more, alongside top Scottish talent. Sonica will also be bringing visual art back to the city centre lighthouse venue since it closed in March 2020, and a special celebration of Scottish film composer Craig Armstrong will take place at the GFT, the Glasgow Film Theatre that is. Cryptic's founding artistic director Cathy Boyd said, Sonica 2024 will be the culmination of our celebration of an incredible 30 years of Cryptic, which began life in Glasgow in 1994. It showcases everything that Cryptic has gone on to become known for, bringing cutting-edge, internationally renowned artists to Scottish audiences and giving an ambitious platform for Scottish artists to stand alongside them. Echoes of the Burrell is free but must be booked in advance. It takes place on September 22nd. And that article was written by Anne Fotheringham. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section. Plans for new £25 million park development over the River Clyde. Article written by Sarah Hilly. Plans for a new waterfront area to be built partly over the top of the River Clyde in the city centre are moving forward, with a public consultation to take place. The £25 million River Park project aims to reconnect the city centre with the waterfront. A built-out area stretching over the water by about 20 metres is to be constructed outside the A-listed Custom House, and the opposite south side of the river at Carlton Place will also see a makeover with a new green space created. People will have the chance to give feedback next month during a consultation, and construction work on new quay walls and landscaping is due to start in 2027. The public can ask questions and have their say on the proposals at an event on October the 9th in Glasgow City Council Chambers. It is hoped the investment in the riverside will create a multifunctional and vibrant waterfront destination that will attract visitors and residents alike. A major aim is also to replace quay walls that are no longer fit for purpose. Councillor Soria Siddiq said, I welcome the regeneration and transformation of the waterfront in Lauriston. Carlton Place and the surrounding areas require regeneration and a focus on saving heritage buildings from falling into disrepair. The potential for a proposed urban park, a river park, with enhanced green space, high quality public realm and enhanced connectivity along the river edge is to be welcomed. However, it is paramount that local residents, community and business views are taken on board to shape their area. A planning application is due to be submitted to Glasgow City Council in early 2025. Money for the scheme would come from the Glasgow City Region City Deals Programme's Clyde Waterfront and West End Innovation Quarter project. The council has appointed the firm Hawkins Brown to develop designs for the north and south banks of the waterfront. To learn more, residents can visit the banqueting hall at Glasgow City Council on October the 9th between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. An online survey will also be available from that date. To sign up for updates, email info@meterwaterfront.co.uk. That's info@meterwaterfront and the article was written by Sarah Hilley. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section, teen arrested after cannabis op uncovered. Report by Kirsty Feerick. A teen has been arrested after police uncovered a major cannabis operation. Officers have seized cannabis worth nearly £700,000 in Ayrshire and Renfrew. Detectives raided a property in Arthurthrough Crescent in Renfrew at 10:35am on Wednesday. More than 100 plants were removed, worth an estimated street value of £66,000. An 18-year-old man was arrested and charged in connection with the seizure. He was due to appear at Paisley Sheriff Court yesterday. Around 1:45pm the same day, officers discovered a cannabis cultivation in King Street, Kilmarnock. More than 500 plants, worth an estimated street value of £314,000, were seized. Inquiries remain ongoing. Meanwhile, in Muirkirk, on Thursday at around 4pm, officers discovered more than 300 cannabis plants. The plants have a potential street value of £219,000. A 32-year-old man has been arrested and charged in connection with the incident. He was due to appear at Ayr Sheriff Court yesterday. Detective Inspector Keith Runcie said, "We know drugs cause real harm in our communities, and tackling them remains a high priority for us. We remain committed to protecting the public and targeting anyone involved in illegal activity which contributes negatively to the local communities we serve." And that report was by Kirsty Feerick. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 14th of September, from the news section, teenager struck takeaway worker with metal baton. Report by Eva White. A teenager struck a takeaway worker with a metal baton before kicking and punching the man. Colin Gethins, 18, of Knightswood, was sentenced at Glasgow Sheriff Court recently after pleading guilty to assaulting NK. The court heard that Gethins was on Dumbarton Road in Yoker and approached Jade House, a takeaway shop, at around 10:45pm on December the 30th, 2023. He then pulled out a silver extendable baton, extended it, and took a swing at the shop window, striking it. The window was not damaged. Mr. K was working in the shop kitchen when he heard a loud banging coming from the front window. He saw Gethins outside and stepped out of the shop to challenge him. Mr. K then immediately tried to grab the baton to disarm Gethins. Gethins and Mr. K wrestled for control of the baton, and as this was happening, Gethins broke free from Mr. K's grip and took a swing at him, striking him on the body. He then punched Mr. K in the head and kicked him in the body, causing him to fall to the ground. This was seen by a passer-by who intervened. Police responded a short time later and were directed to where Gethins was last seen. He was chased nearby, cautioned and charged, to which he made no reply. The Procurator Fiscal Deputy stated that Mr. K had not been injured during the attack. Gethins' lawyer told the court that her client was ashamed of his conduct. The defence solicitor said he was intoxicated with alcohol. His mother had to collect him from the police station. It's not an excuse for the conduct. He has a limited recollection. He is a first-time offender and has no outstanding matters. Appearing before the court is a wake-up call for him. Sheriff Simone Sweeney fined Gethins £470. And that article was written by Eva White.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 16th of September. A father to climb Mount Everest in memory of his late father. An exclusive front page article written by Kirsty Feerick. A dad is climbing Mount Everest to leave a special item on the iconic landmark. Bob McGeechee from Glasgow plans to tackle the highest mountain in the world next month to honour his father, who died of lung cancer. Mount Everest is the Earth's highest mountain, located in the Mahalangur Himal sub-range of the Himalayas. More than 300 people have died climbing the mountain, but 52-year-old Bob is determined to take a picture of his dad to the base camp. Taking a photograph of Robert McGeechee, he plans on marking the 20th anniversary of his death. He'll be joined by his pal Freddie King as they attempt to raise thousands of pounds for Marie Curie to help families affected by cancer. Bob told the Glasgow Times, "I'm taking a picture of my father up Mount Everest in his memory. He died 20 years ago on October the 15th, which is the exact date we should reach our goal of the base camp. He'll be with me as I do the climb, and it's nice to take a part of him on the journey." Everyone has a story about cancer. It sadly affects us all. We wanted to raise money for Marie Curie because they're such a good charity that really helps people. We previously reported how last year Bob climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and raised more than £25,000 to help support terminally ill people. He and Freddie were joined by Alan Campbell as they scaled the dormant volcano and managed to raise an astonishing £27,875 for Marie Curie. Now Bob has no plans to slow down as he prepares to reach Everest Base Camp as part of a 16-day hike. Bob explained, "We're no spring chickens anymore, being in our 50s, but you never feel that age in your head, and we love keeping fit. I think it's great to have a challenge, and if we can raise money for an amazing cause at the same time, that's great. I've never attempted this challenge before, but I'm very excited for it. I can't wait, actually. I've done over 100 Munros and hiked huge mountains, so I feel prepared. There's no feeling like that special place when you're walking." An exclusive front-page article written by Kirsty Fierick. Glasgow Times on Monday the 16th of September. Lifestyle. Corrie star on his cancer fight and a new role in Glasgow. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. After almost 35 years in the business, including a stint as a terrifying Coronation Street villain, Scottish actor Gray O'Brien rarely gets nervous. Just before taking to the stage in one of the most talked about Scottish plays of the year, however, he admits he was having kittens. "I came in early to the theatre and had a little look out onto the stage, and suddenly my heart was in my mouth," he reveals in surprise. "That doesn't happen very often. It was like I was back doing the O-level maths I failed 3 times, or sitting my driving test. I was panicking." Gray is starring as a fictional detective of the moment, John Rebus, as Ian Rankin's famous character continues to evolve from its globally successful literary beginnings into TV drama. The most recent, starring Richard Rankin, was a huge hit, and a stage play. The latter is Rebus, a game called Malice, an Agatha Christie-esque drawing room murder mystery penned by the author, and it's a completely new story, not adapted from any of the books. It's already been warmly received by audiences and critics alike. Gray, who was born in Drumchapel and grew up in Ayrshire, grins. "The response has been great," he says. "As soon as I walked out onto the stage and got the first laugh, it was fine. I think the nerves came because there's quite a lot riding on it. Headlining a show, the buck stops with you. And 30 million books. That's a lot." The play begins with a dinner party at an Edinburgh mansion where guests are involved in a murder mystery game created by the hostess. Amongst them is Inspector John Rebus, whose instincts kick in when things take an unexpected turn. "Ian has written a really good, really clever play," nods Gray. "It's funny, there are modern references. One of the characters is an influencer, for example, but it's a classic whodunit. It's a really slick comedy thriller, and Rebus is fun to play." Gray has played several detectives over the years, but his very first was in the gritty Glasgow cop show that gave him his big break. He made 5 Taggart films as DC Rob Gibson in the early 1990s, working with the original lead actor, Mark McManus. "Mark was a very generous actor. I learned a lot from him," says Gray. "I arrested Colin McCready in one episode, and Sharon Small was my wife in her first television role. Happy memories." Gray wanted to be an actor from as young as 5 years old, he recalls. I remember my careers officer at school laughing at me when I told him, as if a boy from Ayrshire couldn't do that. He pauses. It's that whole west of Scotland chip on the shoulder thing, isn't it? He says. And I've been waiting for the last 35 years for someone to tap me on the shoulder and say, "You're found out, son. Off you go." I've shared that with other actors I've worked with, and they always say after everything you've achieved, what more do you need to do to prove you've been a success? Gray studied at Glasgow's RSAMD, now they're all conservatoire, and he enjoyed huge television success on Peak Practice, Casualty, River City and Doctor Who, and in Coronation Street as murderous businessman Tony Gordon. He surprised fans recently by revealing he'd completed treatment for tonsil cancer. This November will mark 5 years since he finished chemotherapy at the Beatson in Glasgow. Having cancer was very scary, he says flatly. The thing I worried about most was losing my voice. But I was very lucky. The team at the Beatson were wonderful, and I'm delighted to be a spokesperson for them, raising awareness, telling people to get their lumps and bumps checked. Finding it early is important. Gray's about to become a granddad, as his son Connor and his partner are expecting their first baby. He's over the moon happy, juggling work with decorating for the young couple as they move into their first home. It's brought memories to the surface of the actor's own dad, who died 24 years ago. My father had to sit through some dreadful stuff I did at drama school. I remember once, in a South African play, I was dancing about naked, covered in body paint. He breaks off with a laugh. He must have been thinking, what the hell? But after my first Taggart, I went to see my parents and my mum said, "Your dad wants to see you. He's in his shed." I went to the shed and my dad wasn't tactile at all, but he gave me a hug and said, "That'll do for me, son." Gray is momentarily overcome with emotion. I'd just been on his telly and he was proud, he says. He was such a big Coronation Street fan. Can you imagine how he would have felt watching his son become this massive, iconic character on that show? It would have been amazing. And now my son is about to become a dad. Life goes in circles. Rebus, a game called Malice, is at the Pavilion Theatre in Glasgow from September the 23rd to September the 27th. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. Glasgow Times on Monday the 16th of September. Lifestyle. In my head, I'm Beyoncé. Glasgow GP prepares for her Strictly journey. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. Occasionally, grimaces Dr. Poonam Krishan. Friends will send videos of her dancing at parties. I'm always the first on the dance floor, she says with a laugh. And you know, people will send you the footage, and I'm thinking, in my head last night I was Beyoncé, but this looks very much like a car crash. She adds, with a roll of her eyes, I really hope that I can become a bit more of an elegant dancer. Poonam is taking the plunge, diving twinkle toes first into the world of Strictly Come Dancing, as the glittery global hit celebrates its 20th anniversary. As a Glasgow GP working in the city's East End, her day job is about as far removed from foxtrots on fake tan as it's possible to be. Poonam is no stranger to television. She is the resident doctor on the BBC's magazine show Morning Live. She was the hard-hitting doc delivering difficult news to patients in the reality show Laid Bare, and she's appeared on The Weakest Link. Her dance experience, however, is zilch. She laughs. I love dancing, but I know I'm absolutely rubbish at it, she groans. It feels like a very different world I'm about to enter, from being in a very academic headspace where my job is very controlled and a lot of pressure, to getting the opportunity to learn a new skill, something I've always wanted to do. I just want to learn and to do well. The show has been at the centre of a storm of negative stories in recent months, including allegations of abusive behaviour in the training room. The BBC has insisted that it has robust duty of care procedures, which it's bolstered with a series of new measures, including giving stars chaperones in rehearsals. Did the saga playing out in the media affect Poonam's decision to take up the offer? No, not at all, she says firmly. I watch the show every year with my little boy, and Strictly for me is cosy nights, permission to just relax and get lost in the magic of sparkle, glitter and dancing. The press and negativity haven't even remotely affected that. My job is really intense, so I look forward to those Saturday nights. To be able to jump off the sofa into the telly box feels like an absolute moment I can't wait to savour. During the pandemic, Poonam was a columnist for this newspaper, and she's also written a children's book, How to Be a Doctor and Other Life-Saving Jobs. Making it to the giddy heights of Strictly, however, is the unexpected realisation of a long-held fantasy. It's been a dream for so many years, she marvels, taking time out from rehearsals to speak to the Glasgow Times. When I got the call, I genuinely thought it was a prank. I kept saying, is this a joke? Is this actually happening? She adds with a grin, and that was followed by about 10 minutes of the ugliest crying I've ever cried. I was just so excited and so grateful. The mood in the training camp where Poonam joins a cast, which also includes singer Toya Wilcox, Love Island alumnus Tasha Guri, EastEnders star Jamie Borthwick, and former England and Arsenal footballer Paul Merson, is upbeat, she adds. There's been nothing but positivity and lots of support, she says. Poonam grew up in the East End of Glasgow, attending Hillhead Primary and Notre Dame Secondary, which at the time was an all-girls state school, before studying medicine at the University of Glasgow. Her parents, who moved to the city from Punjab in India in the 1970s, ran the local corner shop. We didn't have a huge amount when we were growing up, recalls Poonam. My dad worked in the shop, and that's where all my childhood memories are, really. We'd start the day before school there, we'd do the paper round, we'd be back there after school. We stayed in a little tenement flat with my parents, grandparents, uncles, aunties and cousins. It was colourful. It was not always easy, however, being the daughter of first-generation Scottish Indians in Glasgow. In her Glasgow Times column, she spoke about the racism and abuse her parents experienced. Watching that as a child was really upsetting, she wrote. They never said anything back, they just served. I didn't see us as being different, but when I would look at the papers and magazines on the shelves, it would hit home. We were different. She's now bringing up her own children, a son who's 11 and a daughter who's 4, in the city, but says things have changed dramatically. I was the odd one out growing up. I remember the ache of just wanting to fit in, she says simply. And I don't see that in my children, which is beautiful. They have incredible circles of friends and they just don't see any difference. She adds, Glasgow is mixed, it's beautiful, it's inclusive, and I think we've come a long way. I identify as being a Glaswegian Indian, a Gladjabi, as I like to call myself, so to be able to represent Glasgow and Scotland in Strictly feels very, very special. The new series of Strictly Come Dancing continues on Saturday at 7 o'clock on BBC One. An exclusive article written by Anne Fotheringham. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 16th of September. Man due in court after an attempted murder as forensic crew scour the scene. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. A man is due in court in connection with an attempted murder in Paisley. 999 crews raced to George Street in the town at around 11:55 p.m. last Friday. A 40-year-old man was found unresponsive and rushed to hospital, where he remains in a serious condition. Officers investigating the incident said that they were treating it as an attempted murder. A 31-year-old man was arrested at the time, and police have now revealed that he's been charged in connection with the incident. He's expected to appear at Paisley Sheriff Court on Monday. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, with regard to our previous post in relation to the attempted murder of a 40-year-old man in George Street, Paisley on Friday, September the 13th, the 31-year-old man, who had now been arrested at the time, has now been charged. He's due to appear at Paisley Sheriff Court on Monday. We previously reported that forensic teams were spotted at the scene on Saturday afternoon. Officers in white suits carried out investigations near the flats on George Street, which was covered in crime scene tape. They were taking photographs while uniformed police officers stood guard. An article written by Rebecca Newlands. Glasgow Times on Monday the 16th of September. Opinion. It's time for a public debt bill to reduce child poverty. A column written by Mike Daly. Around 240,000 children live in relative poverty in Scotland, and sadly this unacceptable number has remained fairly static since 2007. Last week I attended a campaign event at the Scottish Parliament to call upon MSPs to make transformational changes to the way public debt is collected to help end child poverty. It was well received by elected members from across all political parties. Aberlour Children's Charity joined with Glasgow's Govan Law Centre to press MSPs to support a transformational law reform bill that would include radical initiatives to change the way Scottish public bodies collect debt to ensure children are not trapped in or pushed into poverty. Low-income families are facing a growing debt crisis, with public debts such as council tax arrears, rent and school meal debts trapping them in an unbreakable cycle of poverty. Aberlour's research and frontline experience found that 75% of the total debt supported by their Tayside Hardship Fund was to pay off debts owed to public bodies. We know that the biggest source of public debt is council tax and water and sewerage arrears, although such taxes are paid at a 93 to 98% success rate. Campaigners are calling on the Scottish Government to take immediate action to reform current public debt recovery processes, which often punish rather than support struggling families. Amongst the measures, the charities are advocating for permanent support to parents in school meal debt, as well as a unified, compassionate approach to debt management that prioritises the well-being of families and children over punitive collection practices. The charities contend the Scottish Government must change course from the current public debt collection approaches to one that actively support families in overcoming financial hardship. Positive government intervention is necessary not only to reduce the financial strain on families, but to improve mental health, strengthen family well-being and prevent issues such as homelessness and the potential loss of children to care systems. Sally Ann Kelly, Chief Executive of Aberlour Children's Charity, said, "Public debt is a key factor in entrenching and increasing child poverty, and those burdened by debt need support, not punishment. Public bodies, including governments, should help people escape debt rather than trapping them in unsustainable and unmanageable financial situations. Positive government interventions to reduce debts not only alleviate financial strain, but also enhance physical and mental well-being, strengthen family bonds, and foster inclusivity for children with disabilities." Examples of things that could be done at minimal cost include the introduction of pre-action requirements before summary warrants are granted. This could trigger a requirement on councils to notify someone where they can obtain free, independent advice before applying for a summary warrant by amending Section 247 of the 1947 Local Government Scotland Act. Writing off school meal debt for those who can never genuinely afford to pay makes economic and ethical sense. We need a code of practice for public debt recovery, which sets out key principles and operational rules for debt recovery by public bodies in Scotland to create a fair, proportionate and consistent approach across the country. The Scottish Government and Parliament must urgently address the policies that lead to public debt and reform current debt recovery practices to be more humane, compassionate and sustainable. It's a no-brainer not to act. A column written by Mike Daly.
From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 17th of September, from the news section. Former bin worker who raped teen girl is jailed. Report by Grant McCabe. A rapist who got his sex education from watching pornography has been jailed for almost 4 years. Dylan Corbett committed the crime against a teenage girl in Woods in Wishaw, Lanarkshire, on May 22, 2019. The pair, who were around the same age, initially had consensual sexual activity. Corbett of Abernethy then made vulgar remarks towards the girl. She slapped him and told him to get away, but he did not. The now 21-year-old was yesterday sentenced at the High Court in Glasgow, having earlier been convicted of rape. The hearing was told that there had been a suggestion in her background social work report of an alternative to custody for Corbett, but Judge Lady Haldane ruled that out and jailed him for 3 years and 9 months for an attack which left the victim significantly affected. Corbett, who had latterly been working as a refuse collector, was also placed on the sex offenders list. Corbett had denied the crime, insisting anything that occurred was consensual. His lawyer yesterday said he continued to protest his innocence. Brian McConaughey, Casey, defending, also told the court, "For what it is worth, and it may be worth noting, it seems to me that the actions of Mr. Corbett during the course of this offence are indicative of someone who got his sexual education from watching pornography and thought that was how he should behave." Mr. McConaughey stated in the pre-sentencing report that said custody was the most likely option, but he added, unusually in his experience for such a crime, there had been mention of it in Corbett being dealt with other than being jailed. Lady Haldane went on to state she had considered all factors, including the guidelines for sentencing those under 25. The judge said, "There is a suggestion in the social work report that a non-custodial disposal may be considered essentially due to your young age at the time. Your age is a relevant factor, but nevertheless, the crime of rape is regarded as one of the most serious to come before these courts." And that report was written by Grant McCabe. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 17th of September. Opinion. Letter to the editor. Shock over state of city. I took the bus into the city centre earlier today, Friday the 13th of September, and, unlucky for me, I got lost in the meanderings of the number 2 as it swept up and down various streets totally unknown to me. I was meeting some former colleagues for lunch and was 20 minutes late in arriving. That is 20 minutes of additional fumes for just one vehicle in the LEZ. The roads were a disgrace. Streets and footpaths opened up from Charing Cross to the centre of town. Just who are our transport gurus trying to kid here? New cycle lanes and infrastructure with signs in the lamppost saying it was in the interest of public safety? They must be joking. The streets are a death trap. One of my more senior colleagues was complaining about the state of the public footpaths, and he is right, they're a public health and safety nightmare. On walking home, though ambulant disabled myself, I met a friend in her electric wheelchair. 10 seconds is all you get to cross at the busy junction at Anderson train station. A throng of pedestrians raced across in their 9 seconds. My friend was still manoeuvring in the centre of the road, now facing oncoming traffic, peeping their horns in frustration. What hope have we got that the city will ever be a dear green place again? It's a barren concrete jungle, with nondescript monolith after monolith, clamouring to reach the sky, and the second tallest building in the North Street shortly. It certainly isn't going to improve matters. What a decaying metropolis. What a mess. When will it end? Just as I crossed over it at the 10-second gap at Anderson Cross, caught in the traffic, what did I see? 3 number 2 buses in a row. A fitting metaphor for the state of our city and the state of our streets. By Alan McGilvray, Anderson. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 17th of September, from the news section. Slice of the action. Report by Rebecca Newlands. A New York pizza pie restaurant has opened in Glasgow. Foodies in the city can now get a taste of the Big Apple from Sears, which opens on Chancellor Street this week. Inspired by the iconic pizza slices and 18-inch pies you would normally get in any street corner in New York City, Sears aims to transport Glaswegians to a cool 1980s pizza shop. Guests can enjoy 9 different options made with low moisture mozzarella, San Marzano tomatoes, and a mix of Italian and organic, sustainable, wild-farmed regenerative dough, fermented and baked to perfection. A slice costs £5 or under, alongside regular specials. The concept was created by Darryl Leach, who is the founder of Baked Pizza Al Tiagolo, along with Paul Beveridge, founder of Raymond Dio, and Tom Lochner, co-founder of Peace Glasgow. Paul was the creative mind behind the interior of the restaurant, which is reminiscent of an 80s/90s New York deli. It features exposed brick, wood-panelled walls, a menu board, a self-serve soda fountain, NYC imagery, neon signs, counter service, and a case filled with pizza pies. He said, "Shop interiors have always been an obsession of mine. I was lucky to visit New York as a kid in the 80s and 90s, and I remember being blown away by the hand-painted signage and aesthetic of the bodegas and pizza shops. This was when NYC art and club culture was at its peak, with Madonna, Keith Haring, Rocksteady Crew, Paris is Burning, The Ramones, etc. So I've tried to incorporate that imagery into our shop interior." Darryl started making pizza and bread at a young age and became a pizza chef in the local Glasgow restaurants. He also spent time in Naples and Rome to become a master at his craft, spending his weeks making over 1,000 pizzas a day. As a particular fan of the New York slice, Darryl moved to New York in 2016 and secured a night job as a pizziaiolo at Ray's Pizza and Bagels on St Mark's Place, East Village. It was there he learned to make the classic New York pie. He said, "Ray's was open almost 24/7 and, as such, it was a focal point of the area. Its affordability in an otherwise fairly expensive neighbourhood allowed all walks of life to mingle together while sharing pizza. The experience inspired me to bring the same vibe to Glasgow." Darryl added, "We know good pizza, we bake great pizza, and we can't wait to serve it to the amazing people of Glasgow." And that article was written by Rebecca Newlands. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 17th of September, from the news section, "Trio jailed after ambush of man over £30 debt." Report by Connor Gordon. 3 thugs who brutally ambushed a man over £30 debt were jailed yesterday for a total of 9 years. John McCormick, 57, Jamie Edgar, 36, and Devon Mooney, 44, pounced on Vajira Vandabona, 40, in Glasgow Springburn on August 10th last year. Mr. Vandabonda was tricked into entering a vehicle by friend McCormick, where he was set upon with a glass bottle by Edgar. The injured man was then dumped in the city centre. His bank card was taken from him by Mooney meantime, and the trio went on to withdraw £500 from his bank account. Edgar, McCormick and grandmother Mooney were found guilty at the Glasgow Sheriff Court to assault and robbery. Sheriff Stuart Reid jailed Edgar for 54 months, while McCormick received 36 months. Mooney was also locked up for 18 months. After the sentence was delivered, Edgar went in a rant from the dock and shouted, 54F *** ing months, F *** ing joke man. 1 year in remand, I get 6 months off. He then turned to McCormick and stated, "It's your F *** ing fault. I will punch your head in, you old P ********. The trial earlier heard Mr. Vandabonda had arranged to meet McCormick to return the cash that he owed him. He got in the car voluntarily on the belief he was going to be driven to an ATM to withdraw £30. Prosecutor Jessica McGowan told jurors in her closing speech, "As the car door closed, he was assaulted by Edgar, while McCormick drove and Mooney took the car to withdraw £500. He was further assaulted outside the car. Then Mr. Vandabona got a chance to run. He was described as shaking after he flagged down help, having suffered a traumatic experience." Miss McGowan added, "He was left praying for God because of what these people did to him." Mr. Vandabonda was taken to Glasgow Royal Infirmary, having suffered a non-displaced fractured rib and wound above his right eye, which was closed with glue. There was bruising under both eyes and swelling to the right side of his face. The victim was released from hospital the following morning. Brian Fitzpatrick, defending Edgar, told at sentencing that his client suffered a serious brain injury after a car crash at 19. The lawyer added that the injury completely disinhibited his behaviour and he is quick to move to aggression. He continues to suffer from the consequences of this injury. Anne McKinley, defending McCormick of Springburn, stated her client continues to protest his innocence. Marisa Borland, defending mum of 5 Mooney, also of Springburn, said she has demonstrated remorse and is struck by the impact this has had on the victim. And that article was written by Connor Gordon.
From Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 18th of September. From the Lifestyle section, Bring Back Glasgow's Trolley Buses, New Book Remembers City Service. This article is written by Anne Fotheringham. Hugh Docherty has been fascinated by trolley buses since he was a wee boy, growing up in Battlefield on the south side of the city. I kept a record of every journey, as well as recording breakdowns and emergencies, said Hugh, who is now 73. I learned all there was to know about the silent service, dubbed Silent Death by sceptical Glaswegians who held that you couldn't hear them coming, unlike noisy trams and diesel buses. A retired press officer who lives in Cathcart adds, I photographed the routes, got to know some of the crews, and visited Hampden Garage, where the garage shunter taught me to drive trolleys at the age of 16 when I should have been studying for my hires. Now Hugh has written a book about the famous but short-lived service, which only ran in the city from 1949 until 1967, taking their power from overhead wires. Illustrated by black and white and colour pictures, mainly taken by Hugh as a teenager, Trolleybuses, Glasgow's Silent Service is published by Stenlake. Hugh travelled to school every day on the 107 trolley from 1962 until the last bus ran on May 27, 1967, and the book is full of anecdotes from his days on board. There was the time an Orange Order band mace was thrown so high it ended up being melted by the current in the trolleybus wires on Victoria Road, as the band looked up in horror from below, recalls Hugh. Then there was a 5 feet tall clippy hoisted aloft by the pull of the trolley spring while trying to catch it with the tall bamboo pole that every trolleybus carried to deal with defilements. Complete with ticket machine and cash bag and yelling blue murder, she had to be pulled back to earth by other trolleybus crews. He adds, Glasgow has always loved street theatre, and the trolleybuses were often star of the show, especially with the banter of the conductors and conductresses, or when a dewirement took place. When I was 15, on my way to school one morning, I noticed that the overhead points at the top of West Nile Street were damaged and belled the bus to stop, saving a dewirement and the driver a lot of trouble. The driver asked the teenager for his name, address and school, recalls Hugh, and the Transport Department General Manager, the famous E.R.L. Fitzpaine, whose name appeared on the side of every trolleybus, tram and bus in Glasgow, got involved. He wrote to the Director of Education, who contacted the head teacher, who summoned me to his office to praise me for saving the day, says Hugh. I was relieved, as I thought I was being pulled in for doing something wrong. Hugh wrote the book from his own records and memories to pay tribute to the trolleybuses, he says. They gave the city an excellent service before being scrapped when some of the buses were hardly 10 years old, says Hugh. Glasgow had nailed its colours firmly to the mast, or the motor car, and councillors felt that the trolleys, with their fixed overhead wires, were getting in the way of redevelopment and motorways. Totally ignoring the fact that they were pollution-free, they replaced them with diesel buses. Existing trolleybus systems are being further developed in cities such as Vancouver and Salzburg because the buses are silent and environmentally friendly, explains Hugh. We could do with bringing them back to Glasgow instead of favouring battery electric buses, which are heavy on the roads because of the weight of their batteries and subject to range problems, while batteries, which lose their edge over time, are expensive to replace, he adds. Modern trolleybuses are far more efficient. We should bring them back to Glasgow. And that article was written by Anne Fotheringham. From Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 18th of September. From the Lifestyle section, Does the new Paisley Pie Co. live up to the hype? My verdict. Written by Charles Pring. It has been a meteoric rise for Paisley Pie Co. since opening up shop in spring 2023. So instantly popular were their pies that they quickly outgrew their tiny premises on Bridge Street and have now opened a second location on the corner of Causey Side Street and Forbes Place. With considerably more space than the original shop, the new restaurant has plenty of tables for sitting in, as well as an expanded offering of sandwiches, cakes, salads, drinks, and pies, of course. Such is the hype that a congratulatory motion was even lodged in the Scottish Parliament by West Scotland MSP Neil Bibby. The Parliament congratulates the Paisley Pie Company on its successful first year and announcement of plans to expand its operations, it said, noting the company's strong reputation for its wide variety of pies. High praise indeed. With Paisley Pie Co. the talk of the town, and the Parliament, I decided to pop into the new shop to see if the pies were selling like hotcakes or just half-baked. The shop front looks sharp and bold, with fresh black paint and stylish gold lettering. Inside, it feels big and bright, with lots of seating and natural light, though I'm not quite sure why there's a decorative moped parked by the fridge. Making your way to the counter, you're immediately struck by the selection of pies and sweet treats available. One counter has a range of hot pies and pizzas, some doner covered, ready to go, while on the other side are goods that can be eaten cold or heated up if you're sitting in. There's a number of tasty-looking sandwiches, croissants, and pasta dishes on display, but I didn't come to Paisley Pie Co. for a baguette. After careful consideration, I opted for a steak and haggis and a South Indian chicken, with an Empire biscuit to treat myself for no good reason. With the addition of a cup of tea, the total came to a reasonable, if not exactly cheap, £12.30. Tucking into the pies, the pastry is fantastic, soft and buttery on top, crisp around the sides, and firm on the bottom. Delicious all over. The steak pie is loaded with huge succulent pieces of beef and a generous stuffing of haggis, with a hearty gravy to moisten proceedings. It tastes fantastic, pretty much everything you'd want from a meat pie. The South Indian is also enjoyable, with a pleasantly spiced curry sauce that contains just a hint of tangy sweetness. It's a good pie, though unlike the massive chunks of steak, the pieces of chicken here feel a little small, and they don't make the same carnivorous impression as you bite into them. The Empire biscuit had me feared at first. It looked a little dry. Thankfully, I can report that this was not the case. The dry appearance belied what was a very nicely baked biscuit, with a surprising but enjoyable coconut flavour to it. Overall, I very much enjoyed this filling and satisfying lunch. The pies certainly did not disappoint. If I had one complaint, they could have been heated a bit more evenly, but the textures and tastes were top-notch. One of the better lunches you can have in Paisley. And that article was written by Charles Pring.
This is from the Glasgow Times on the 18th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Busy Paisley Road closed due to ongoing police incident." This article is by Ben Waddle. A busy Paisley Road has been closed due to an ongoing police incident. Hawkhead Road in the town has been shut from Hurlet Road after a person has been hit by a car. Officers say they were called to the incident shortly after 8 AM this morning, Wednesday, September 18th. 999 crews are currently in attendance at the scene. Meanwhile, drivers are being asked to use alternative routes. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said Hawkhead Road in Paisley is closed from Hurlet Road after a person was struck by a car around 8:10 this morning. Emergency services are in attendance. We'd asked drivers to use an alternative route. The Scottish Ambulance Service has been contacted for comment. This is a breaking news story. More as we have it. This article is by Ben Waddle. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 18th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Comedian cancels Glasgow show and tour amid cancer treatment." This article is by Ben Waddle. Scots comedian Janie Godley has cancelled her autumn tour amid ongoing treatment for ovarian cancer. The 63-year-old from Glasgow was due to embark on the Why Is She Still Here tour, which included dates across UK cities, including London, Belfast and Edinburgh, before her doctors advised her that she should stop working for the foreseeable future. The comic was also due to perform at Glasgow's SEC Armadillo as part of the tour on Sunday, November 17th. Revealing the news, a statement read, "It is with huge sadness that we must announce the cancellation of Janie Godley's Autumn 2024 tour. Janie has been living with stage 4 ovarian cancer for the past few years and the treatment from the wonderful Scottish NHS has kept the disease at bay, but sadly, in the last few weeks, the cancer has returned and there have been a few added complications. Her doctors have now advised her that she must stop work for the foreseeable future. Janie is devastated to let down her thousands of loyal fans and the wonderful venues she has played many times over the years. She would like to thank everyone for their love and support at this difficult time. Godley, who found viral fame with her dubbed pastiches of Nicola Sturgeon's coronavirus news briefings during the pandemic, revealed she had ovarian cancer in November 2021. In 2022, the comedian was given the all clear and said in a post X that a scan showed no evidence of disease. However, she later announced that another scan had shown signs of the disease in her abdomen, but added that she would continue with her tour in February and March 2023. In a video she posted to social media last year, Godley said she had received scan results that showed the treatment she was on was keeping her terminal and incurable ovarian cancer at bay. Earlier in the year, Godley performed dates across the country in towns and cities, including Bristol, Epsom, Norwich and Milton Keynes as part of her Not Dead Yet tour. In 2023, the comedian became the winner of the inaugural Sir Billy Connolly Spirit of Glasgow Award at the Glasgow International Comedy Festival. She faced controversy in 2021 after the Scottish Government coronavirus adverts she featured in were pulled after offensive tweets by her came to light following an investigation by the Daily Beast website. This article is by Ben Waddle. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 18th of September 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, "Man caught with large machete in Glasgow by police." This article is by Ben Waddle. A man was caught with a large machete in Glasgow. Officers from Pollock arrested a man after allegedly catching him with the blade in public on Tuesday, September 17th. The weapon was then seized by cops. Meanwhile, a report has been submitted to the Procurator Fiscal. Meanwhile, the man will appear in court at a later date. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, "Pollock officers yesterday arrested a male who was in public in possession of a large machete. The item has been seized and is no longer within your community. A report has been sent to the Procurator Fiscal and the male will attend court at a later date." This article was by Ben Waddle.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Review and Review and to tell your friends about our service.